Hi everyone, in this presentation we will examine two tectonic shifts created by the European Green Deal and its constitution for the food system to form the fork strategy. Regulation is no longer a nuisance of bureaucracy, it's our survival guide. We will center on the concept of regulatory intelligence. Why? I think because the comfortable era of the linear economy take, make, dispose is over. We are now in the era of reduce, reuse, recycle. We will see that what we call waste is actually just raw material suffering from an identity crisis. Let me tell you this as a food engineer. In the past, a good engineer meant a good formulation. Today, a good engineer is one who reads the official gazette and foresees that formulation being banned 5 years from now. Our goal is to transform regulatory uncertainty into manageable risk and even opportunity. If you are ready, let's turn the boring world of regulation into a strategic art of war. Here you can see how this model reframes regulatory compliance as a source of competitive advantage rather than merely a legal requirement. We will explore how regulatory intelligence grounded in institutional theory and the resource-based will can transform uncertainty into a strategic opportunity within the circular bioeconomy. Here you can see that the learning objectives go beyond compliance and focus on anticipation, prediction, and strategic adaptation. By the end of this module, you will be equipped to proactively manage regulatory change, leverage digital intelligence tools, and transform waste into strategic value. We are now shifting the discussion to the broader macro context in which food legislation operates. In the entrepreneurial regulation is no longer a passive compliance requirement. It has become a strategic determinant of corporate survival, climate accountability, and long-term market access. Now let's flex our economic muscles a bit. The answers to the finance directors asking why are we making this sustainability investments lie here. We have two fundamental theories, institutional theory and the resource-based way. Institutional theory tells us firms comply with rules not just for profit but to gain social approval. That is legitimacy. In sociology, we call this isomorphism, meaning everyone starts looking alike. If the state says do it, you do it. You don't have the luxury of ignoring law no 5996. They will shut you down. Then there is mimetic isomorphism, which is quite fun. If the market leader puts a carbon label on the shelf, everyone else does the same tomorrow. Why? Because in uncertain times, the safest harbor is to imitate the successful. But the real magic lies in the resource-based way. This theory posits that competitive advantage is hidden not outside, but in internal VRIN resource. Valuable, rare, inimitable, and non-substitutable. Now I ask you, can regulatory knowledge be a VRIN resource? Yes, the official gazette is open to everyone, so it's not rare, but taking that data, processing it with AI predicting a titanium dioxide ban 6 months before competitors and reformulating accordingly. That is a rare and inimitable capability. This gives you first mover advantage while your competitor panic and destroy stock when the ban hits. You smile on the shelf with your new formula. That is regulatory strategy. Let's open the map and focus on Brazil. Why? Because for the Turkish food exporter, Brazil is sometimes more of a capital than Ankara. The European Green Deal is not just an environmental project, it's a massive economic transformation plan. Its projection in food is the farm to fork strategy. What does this strategy tell us? Reduce pesticides by 50% and fertilizers by 20% by 2030. This is a nightmare for conventional farmers, but a dream for entrepreneurs producing biopesticides. Furthermore, halving food waste at retail and consumer levels is no longer a nice-to-have wish. It's becoming a legal target. Soon we will see maximum waste limits per ton of processed food. Here is the critical point. When combined with the Circular Economy Action Plan, things get serious. The EU is introducing a sustainable product norm, meaning if your product is not durable, repairable, or recyclable, it cannot enter the EU market. The message for Turkish farms is clear. Either board this green train or wave from the station. If even one link in your supply chain does not meet the standards, the whole chain breaks. You are now accountable not just for the final product, but for its story in the field. We arrive at the most painful topic, packaging. The packaging and packaging waste regulation. Please note this is a regulation, not a directive. Many EU member states do not have the luxury of thinking how should I adapt this to domestic law. The moment Brussels pushed the button, the same law applied from Lisbon to Tallinn. The year 2050 is a milestone. By that date, all packaging in the EU market must be economically recyclable. Say goodbye to those multi-layer packages you love for extending shelf life but are impossible to recycle. You will either innovate or lose market share. Also, there are mandatory recycled content targets for plastic packaging. We are talking about rates up to 65% by 2040. This means we are entering a global war to find food-grade recycled PET. And then there is the famous air in the ship packet issue. With the empty space ratio regulation, more than 50% void space in transport and e-commerce packaging is prohibited. Logistic managers will love this, but marketers, the era of big package, big perception is over. Now is the era of optimized package, honest perception. This regulation opens a massive playground for packaging designers and material scientists. If you process coffee, cocoa, soy, or beef, keep your ears open. The EU deforestation regulation is a revolution in supply chain management. The EU says, my citizen does not want to be complicit in the destruction of the Amazon rainforest while eating chocolate. Showing a piece of paper of customs saying this cocoa is sustainable will no longer suffice. You will provide the geographic coordinates of the farm where that cocoa was produced. I am not joking. Satellite data will verify whether that farm lost its forest status after December 31, 2020. If even one tree was cut after that date, your product cannot enter to EU gate. This situation turns food engineers into data analysts. This is where RegTech comes in. Blockchain-based traceability system, satellite imaging services. For experts not using these technologies, the game is over. The main idea of this slide is transparency is no longer PR material. It's an operational license condition. Raw material without geolocation data is non-existent. Let's turn from Brussels back to Ankara. Thanks to EU candidacy process, Turkey has largely harmonized its legislation. Law No. 5996 is the constitution of our sector. It models to EU's general food laws and adapts to farm-to-fork holistic approach. However, the real star of recent years is the Zero Waste Regulation. This regulation mandated source separation of waste, but more importantly, in line with the EU Landfill Directive, we are gradually banning the burial of biodegradable waste in landfills. What does this mean? If municipality and businesses cannot bury this waste, what will they do? They will be forced to turn to compost and biogas plants. Here lies the opportunity. There is also a quiet revolution, the use of recycled plastic in food contact material. With the amendment made around 2024-2025, Turkey now permits the use of recycled PET in food packaging. Even the processing of production scraps has been cleared. This is a huge relief for the Turkish plastic industry and a giant step in the transition to the circular economy. Let's talk money. Waste management is generally seen as a cost center. You pay the garbage truck, they take it away, but with YEKDEM, Renewable Energy Support Mechanism, this equation is flipped. The state says take that organic waste, convert it to electricity in a biogas plant, and I guarantee to buy that electricity from you for 10 years at a price indexed to the dollar. This means a food business exists to take, make, dispose model and move to a structure that produces its own energy. If the turbine or boiler you use in the facility is certified domestic goods, you also get an extra incentive bonus. Today, many dairy plants or sugar factories in Turkey are also power plants. Waste has moved from a liability to an asset on the balance sheet. Let our slogan be, waste is just raw material without an identity. When you return to fermented fertilizer from the biogas plant back to agriculture, you complete the cycle. So how do we track all this change? Waking up in the morning and checking the official gazette is not enough. We need to move from passive tracking to proactive anticipation. We call this regulatory intelligence. Regulatory intelligence is a cycle. The first stage is surveillance. The second stage is analysis. Let's say an additive is being debated in the EU. What is the impact on my product portfolio? What is my revenue loss? The third stage is this examination. You cannot keep this information only in the legal department. R&D must know to work on a new formula. Marketing must know to change the packaging. And the final stage is advocacy. Being able to go to Ankara or Brussels while the law is still in draft form and say this rule is technically implementable. Let's revise it like this. If you don't have an REI system, you get shocked when the law passes. If you do, you are already ready when the law passes. RI is the firm's navigation system in the age of uncertainty. If a pilot has a cockpit, a regulatory strategist has these tools. A food engineer who doesn't know this is like a captain without a compass. First and most important, technical regulations information system. This is where the laws EU member states have in mind are collected. When France wants to pass a labeling law, they write here first, and a 3 months standstill period begins. That 3 months is your golden time. You can object, prepare, or switch markets. Second is rapid alert system for food and feed. This is the emergency room of food safety. For example, which product from which country has pesticides. You can know. Third, RegTech and AI. It's impossible to scan thousands of pages with human eye. AI tools scan social media and perform sentiment analysis. When consumers start tweeting aspartame is harmful, you can force that the legislator will also take action. These tools save you time, and time is money. We discussed the challenge of regulation. Now let's monetize them. Wherever regulation creates a gap of pressure, and entrepreneurial opportunity is born. For example, food banking. The legislation in Turkey works wonderfully. You deduct the cost of donated food from tax with its startup like Fazla do. They built a technological bridge between markets and associations. The market got rid of vast costs and gained tax advantage. The startup took its commissions. The food didn't go to the trash. A perfect win-win-win model. The other opportunity is upcycling. Thanks to end of waste criteria, we can take what we call waste out of legal status and turn it into a product. Composite material from coffee grounds, pectin from orange peels, insect protein from organic waste. Legislation now recognizes this. Next generation fits. Your duty as an entrepreneur is to turn waste into gold within the limits permitted by legislation. In the past, companies had the waterfall method. A law passes, it's analyzed, a plan is made, implemented. It took months. Now regulation changed so fast you can not catch up. We need to learn something from software developers. Agile management. Our scenario is this. Titanium dioxide ban draft is seen in technical regulation information system. We immediately form a temporary regulatory sprint team. It includes quality and R&D procurement. They run 2-week sprints. Sprint 1, which product contains this substance, list them. Sprint 2, find alternative natural colorant, call the supplier. Sprint 3, start sharp live testing. And the final What have we learned today? The food sector is moving from an age of unsupervised exploitation to an age of regulated circularity. Is this transition regulation is not a warden take that keeps us in line, but a lighthouse that illuminates our path. Remember, institutional theory, you must complete or you are out of the game. But don't forget the resource-based with those who use regulatory intelligence as an internal resource rule to the game. Monitoring tools are your radar, and agile teams are your engine. My advice to you, young colleague, do not read legal texts as boring paragraph. Read them as as map of new market opportunity, new raw materials, and innovative business model. The future belongs to food engineer who specialize in database as much as in laboratories. Turn waste into value, risk into opportunity. Thank you for listening.